The morning rush had finally died down at Bailey's diner, leaving behind the lingering smell of bacon and coffee that clung to Amara's uniform. She tucked a stray curl back into her neat bun and wiped down her last table, her shoulders aching from carrying heavy trays since 5 in the morning. The diner sat on a busy corner in downtown Atlanta, its gleaming windows and polished counters a stark contrast to the aging buildings around it. "Hey, can you cover Tanya's section too? She called in sick again," Darlene, the shift supervisor, said as she passed by with a stack of menus. Amara sighed quietly, but nodded. "Sure thing." She could use the extra tips even if her feet were already screaming at her. The envelope of bills in her apartment had been getting thicker, and her brother Dion's text this morning about college textbook prices had only added to her worry. "I'm sorry, sis," he had written. "The engineering books alone are almost $600. I can pick up extra hours at the campus store, but—" She had stopped him right there. "I got you," she texted back. "Focus on those grades." Dion was the first in their family to go to college, and Amara was determined to keep him there, no matter how many double shifts it took. At 28, she had long ago put her own dreams of culinary school on hold, but her brother's future was non-negotiable. Bailey's was considered upscale for a diner, with its fancy coffee blends and locally sourced ingredients that justified the steep prices on the menu. The owner, Mr. Harvey, had made it clear during her interview 3 years ago that Bailey's catered to a certain clientele. Translation: the business people from surrounding office buildings, the weekend brunch crowd in designer clothes, and tourists willing to pay $18 for avocado toast. "Presentation is everything," Mr. Harvey would remind the staff during their monthly meetings. "Our customers expect a premium experience." The bell above the door jingled, and Amara glanced up from refilling salt shakers. An elderly man hesitated in the doorway, looking around uncertainly. His clothes were clean but noticeably worn, a beige button-up shirt frayed at the collar, pants that had long ago lost their crisp pleats, and shoes that had been polished many times over worn soles. A canvas bag hung from his shoulder. Bulging with papers, Amara watched as Gregory, the host, approached the man with the tight smile he reserved for people he deemed undesirable customers. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're preparing for our lunch service. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the cafe down the street?" Gregory's voice carried across the half-empty diner. The old man's shoulders hunched slightly. "Oh, I just wanted some coffee and maybe a little something to eat. I can sit anywhere, don't need much space." Amara set down the salt shaker she'd been filling and made her way to the front. She'd seen this routine before and hated it every time. "Gregory, I can take him in my section. Table 7 just left." She smiled at the elderly gentleman. "Right this way, sir. The coffee's fresh and we've got some great lunch specials today." Gregory's nostrils flared slightly, but with other customers watching, he simply nodded stiffly and returned to his podium. Amara felt Mr. Harvey's eyes on her from his office doorway but kept walking, leading the old man to a small table by the window. "Thank you." "Dear," the man said, settling into the chair with a small grunt. "Not everyone would have done that. It's no problem at all." "That's what we're here for," Amara replied, handing him a menu. "I'm Amara, and I'll be taking care of you today." "Nice to meet you, Amara. I'm Robert." His smile created a web of deep wrinkles around kind eyes. "This is a nice place. Been meaning to try it for a while now." Amara poured him a cup of coffee from the carafe she'd brought over. "Cream or sugar?" "Just black is fine, thank you." He studied the menu, his brow furrowing slightly at the prices. Maybe just some toast would be good. "The cornbread is our specialty. Comes with honey butter," Amara suggested, knowing it was one of the more affordable items. "That sounds perfect." Robert nodded, closing the menu with relief. As Amara turned to put in his order, she caught Mr. Harvey watching her from near the kitchen, his arms crossed. She straightened her spine and walked with purpose to the computer terminal. "1 cornbread basket for 7, she told Luis, the line cook. "That's it?" Luis raised an eyebrow. For now, he might order more later. When she returned to check on Robert a few minutes later, he was staring out the window, absently turning his coffee cup in small circles. "Penny for your thoughts?" Amara asked, refilling his coffee. Robert chuckled. "At my age, not sure they're worth that much." He took a sip of the fresh coffee. "Just remembering when this whole area was different. My wife and I used to come downtown for dinner every Friday night. There was a little jazz club right across the street. He pointed with a slightly trembling finger. Been closed for 20 years now. You're from Atlanta, then? Born and raised? Though I spent many years away for work. Engineering firm. Built bridges all over the country. Pride crept into his voice. Retired now, of course. That sounds fascinating, Amara said, genuinely interested. My brother's studying engineering at Georgia Tech right now. Robert's face brightened. Is that so? Smart family you must have. What's he focusing on? Civil engineering. He wants to design green buildings, sustainable stuff. Amara couldn't help the pride in her own voice. Kid's always been brilliant. Louise called from the kitchen window and Amara excused herself to get Robert's cornbread. When she returned with the small basket, the warm, sweet smell wafting up from the golden squares, she noticed Robert searching through his pockets with increasing panic. Everything okay? She asked, setting down the food. I seem to have... He patted his shirt pocket, then checked his pants again. Well, this is embarrassing. I think I've left my wallet at home. His face flushed with shame. I'm so sorry to waste your time. I should go. He began to rise, his movements stiff and uncertain. Amara made a quick decision. Please sit down. It's just cornbread. It's on me, Robert hesitated. I couldn't possibly, I insist. Everyone forgets things sometimes. Enjoy your coffee and cornbread, she smiled warmly. Besides, you were about to tell me about those bridges you built. Relief washed over his weathered face as he settled back into his chair. You're very kind. I promise to come back and leave you a proper tip next time. Don't worry about it. Amara waved away his concern. Try the cornbread while it's hot. As the lunch crowd began trickling in, Amara divided her attention between her regular tables and occasional check-ins with Robert. He ate slowly, savoring each bite, and shared stories about projects he'd worked on, his eyes lighting up when he spoke about the mathematics involved in designing safe, beautiful structures. He showed her faded photographs from his wallet of bridges and buildings he'd helped create, pointing out details with gnarled fingers. My Elizabeth always said that one was her favorite, he said softly, tapping a picture of an elegant pedestrian bridge arching over a river. Said it looked like it was dancing on the water. She had good taste, Amara replied, noticing the gold wedding band he still wore. Is she also from Atlanta? A shadow crossed his face. She passed 3 years ago. Cancer, we had 52 years together. I'm sorry for your loss, Amara said gently. Thank you, dear. Some days are harder than others. He carefully returned the photos to his wallet. That's why I'm out today. Our anniversary. Sitting at home felt too quiet. Amara squeezed his shoulder lightly. Then I'm glad you came in. Amara. The sharp voice made her turn. Darlene stood nearby, her smile tight. Table 12 has been trying to get your attention for their check, and you've got new customers at 9. Right away, Amara nodded, turning back to Robert. Can I get you anything else? No, thank you. You've been more than kind already. As the lunch rush intensified, Amara found herself juggling orders and requests, darting between tables with practiced efficiency. Still, she made sure to refill Robert's coffee whenever she passed by, sometimes pausing for a quick word. He sat contentedly, watching the bustle of the restaurant and occasionally making notes in a small notebook he'd pulled from his bag. Amara, a word. Mr. Harvey's voice cut through the din of the lunch crowd. He stood by the service station beckoning her over with a crooked finger. Yes, sir? She approached, already suspecting what this was about. That man has been nursing a coffee for over an hour, taking up a table during our busiest period, he said in a low voice. And I noticed you comped his food. He forgot his wallet, Mr. Harvey. It was just a cornbread basket. That's not the point. We have policies. His gaze flicked to Robert, then back to her. And you've been spending an excessive amount of time chatting with him while your other tables wait. I've been keeping up with all my tables, Amara replied evenly. See that you do. And perhaps suggest to your friend that Bailey's is not a community center. We have paying customers waiting for tables. Amara bit the inside of her cheek and nodded, returning to her duties with a knot forming in her stomach. For the next hour, she gave Robert his space, though she couldn't help noticing how other servers and even customers threw curious glances his way, as if wondering why he was still there. When the lunch rush finally began to subside, Robert carefully gathered his things and stood up, smoothing down his shirt. I should be going, he said when Amara came to clear his cup. Thank you for your kindness today, Amara. It's been a long time since someone treated me like a human being rather than an inconvenience. You're welcome back anytime, she replied, meaning it. I'll remember that. He reached out and patted her hand. And I'll remember you. Good people are rare these days. Amara watched as he made his slow way to the door, his back straight despite his years. Gregory barely acknowledged him as he left, immediately wiping down the door handle after it closed. Amara, in my office, please. Mr. Harvey stood in his doorway, his expression stern. With a sinking feeling, she followed him, already calculating how many shifts she would need to cover Dion's textbooks, and wondering if any other restaurants in the area were hiring. Amara stood in Mr. Harvey's office, her hands clasped tightly in front of her to keep them from shaking. The room was small but meticulously organized, with awards and newspaper clippings about Bailey's Diner framed on the walls. A desktop calendar lay open on his polished desk, every square filled with neat handwriting. Mr. Harvey settled into his leather chair, the material creaking under his weight. He adjusted his tie and folded his hands on the desk, making Amara wait in uncomfortable silence before he finally spoke. Do you know why I hired you 3 years ago, Amara? She swallowed. Because I had 5 years of experience and good references? Partly, he conceded with a thin smile, but mainly because you understood what Bailey's represents. Quality, standards, a certain atmosphere. He gestured toward the dining area. Our customers don't come here just for food. They come for an experience. I understand that, sir. Do you? His eyebrows rose. Because what I witnessed today suggests otherwise. He tapped a finger on his desk calendar. First, you seated someone Gregory had already turned away. He was just looking for a quiet place to have coffee, Amara said, trying to keep her voice steady. There was plenty of room. Then, Mr. Harvey continued as if she hadn't spoken. You gave away food without authorization. It was just cornbread that would have been thrown out anyway. And finally, his voice hardened. You spent an excessive amount of time socializing with this person while neglecting your other duties. I didn't neglect anyone, Amara objected, heat rising in her cheeks. All my tables were taken care of. Mr. Harvey leaned back in his chair. Table 12 waited 7 minutes for their check. The Wilsons at 9 specifically mentioned to Darlene that their coffee sat empty while you chatted with your friend. The way he said friend made Amara's jaw clench. She knew the Wilsons, a couple who came in twice a week and always found something to complain about no matter who served them. I apologize if service was slow, she said carefully. It won't happen again. You're right about that. Mr. Harvey opened a drawer and pulled out a small stack of papers. I've been watching your performance for some time now, Amara. This isn't the first incident. Confusion crossed her face. What are you talking about? My customer reviews have been excellent. I've never had a formal complaint. 2 weeks ago, you argued with a customer about his order. Mr. Phillips tried to claim his steak was overcooked after he'd eaten nearly all of it. She protested. The kitchen confirmed it was prepared exactly as he ordered. Last month you were late twice in 1 week. My car broke down, and then the bus line had a service disruption. I called ahead both times. Mr. Harvey waved a dismissive hand. The point is, these small infractions add up. Today was simply the final straw. He slid the papers across the desk. This is your final paycheck, including today's hours. We won't be needing your services any longer. The words hit Amara like a physical blow. She stared at the papers, unable to process what was happening. You're firing me. Over cornbread? I'm terminating your employment due to repeated violations of company policy and failure to maintain Bailey's standards. His tone was practiced, almost bored. You may collect your personal items from your locker. Darlene will walk you out. Mr. Harvey, please. Panic rose in Amara's throat. I need this job. My brother's tuition is not Bailey's concern. He stood up, signaling the end of the conversation. I'll need your name tag and apron before you leave. With trembling fingers, Amara unpinned the name tag she'd worn for 3 years. She'd been so proud the day she received it, seeing it as a step toward saving enough for culinary school someday. Now she placed it on the desk, followed by her folded apron, feeling as if she were surrendering pieces of herself. Good luck, Amara, Mr. Harvey said, already turning his attention to paperwork on his desk. Darlene is waiting outside. The walk to her locker felt like a dream. The familiar diner sounds, clinking silverware, sizzling grill, murmured conversations, suddenly alien and distant. Darlene stood by awkwardly as Amara collected her few belongings. A spare pair of non-slip shoes, a cardigan for cold mornings, a small makeup bag, and the framed photo of her and Dion at his high school graduation. For what it's worth, Darlene whispered as they walked toward the back exit. I think this is garbage. You're one of our best. Thanks, Amara managed, her throat tight. Take care of table 4 for me. The lady ordered decaf, not regular. She's pregnant. Darlene nodded, giving Amara's arm a quick squeeze before opening the door to the alley behind the restaurant. I'll make sure your final tips get to you. And just like that, Amara found herself standing in the alley, holding a small box of belongings, the heavy metal door closing behind her with a definitive click. The shock gave way to reality as she walked to the bus stop. Rent was due in 10 days. Dion needed those textbooks by next week. Her car needed a new timing belt. And now she had no job. She sat on the bench at the bus stop, clutching her box, and finally let the tears come. 3 years of perfect customer reviews, of double shifts and holiday coverage, of biting her tongue when customers were rude, all erased because she'd shown kindness to the wrong person. The bus ride home was a blur. Amara stared out the window, mentally calculating how long her savings would last and which bills could be delayed. By the time she climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, a dull headache had settled behind her eyes. Her phone buzzed as she unlocked her door. Dion's smiling face appeared on the screen. Hey sis. His voice was bright with excitement. You won't believe this. Professor Wong chose my design for the Sustainable Housing Project. If we win the state competition, it comes with a $5,000 scholarship. Amara sank onto her worn couch, forcing enthusiasm into her voice. That's amazing, Dion. I knew you could do it. It's all thanks to you, he continued, unaware of her distress. If you hadn't pushed me to apply to tech instead of settling for community college. You earned it all yourself, she said, closing her eyes against a fresh wave of tears. I'm just the loudmouth big sister who made you do your homework. They chatted for a few more minutes, Amara carefully steering the conversation away from her day. She couldn't bear to tell him about losing her job, not when he was so happy. That conversation could wait until tomorrow. After hanging up, she changed out of her black work pants and white button-up shirt, tossing them into the corner. She never wanted to see that uniform again. A hot shower helped ease the tension in her shoulders, but did little for the knot of worry in her stomach. Wrapped in her bathrobe, Amara opened her laptop and began searching job listings. Waitressing positions, barista openings, retail work, anything that might hire quickly. She sent out application after application, her determination growing with each submission. This setback wouldn't defeat her. It couldn't. By midnight, exhaustion had overtaken worry. She closed her laptop and crawled into bed, setting her alarm for early morning. The restaurant district would be her first stop tomorrow. Sometimes smaller places hired on the spot if you showed up between the breakfast and lunch rushes. Despite her exhaustion, sleep came fitfully. Dreams of endless tables needing service, of Mr. Harvey's dismissive wave, of Dion's disappointed face when she couldn't help with his textbooks kept jerking her awake. When her alarm finally buzzed at 6 a.m., she had barely slept 4 hours. The morning routine helped center her. Coffee brewing, toast popping up, a quick check of her emails to see if any of last night's applications had received responses. Nothing yet, but it was early. She dressed carefully in her best interview clothes. Black slacks, a blue blouse that brought out the warmth in her dark skin, and low heels that were professional but comfortable enough to walk in all day if necessary. One day at a time, she told her reflection as she twisted her hair into a neat bun. You've faced worse than this. Her phone buzzed with a text from Darlene. Your tips from yesterday, 87, I can drop them by later. Amara texted back her thanks, adding the amount to her mental tally. It wasn't much, but it would help. As she gathered her purse and keys, preparing to begin her job hunt, her phone rang again. An unfamiliar number with the local area code. Probably a spam call, but with her situation, she couldn't afford to miss any potential opportunity. Hello? May I speak with Amara Johnson? The voice was crisp, professional, and unfamiliar. This is she. Ms. Johnson, my name is Patricia Wells from Thornton & Associates law firm. I'm calling on behalf of our client, who has requested an urgent meeting with you this morning. Would you be available to come to our office at 9 a.m.? Amara frowned, confusion replacing her initial wariness. Law firm? I don't understand. Is something wrong? Nothing is wrong, Ms. Johnson, Patricia assured her. Our client simply wishes to discuss a matter of mutual interest. He was quite insistent about seeing you today. Who is your client? Amara asked, unable to imagine who would send a lawyer to contact her. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to say over the phone, but I assure you this meeting will be worth your time. Transportation can be arranged if needed. Amara hesitated, weighing her options. A mysterious meeting versus pounding the pavement for a new job. Under normal circumstances, she would have declined, but these weren't normal circumstances. And something about the caller's tone suggested this wasn't a scam. I can make my own way there, she finally said. Where's your office? Patricia provided an address in the downtown business district, in one of the gleaming high-rises that housed Atlanta's most prestigious firms. 15th floor, suite 1520, she added. I'll alert security to expect you. After hanging up, Amara stared at her phone. What could this possibly be about? She couldn't think of any reason a law firm would want to meet with her, let alone on an urgent basis. For a fleeting moment, she wondered if Mr. Harvey was somehow involved, perhaps some kind of legal action regarding her dismissal. But that made no sense. She'd been fired less than 24 hours ago. Whatever this was, she would find out soon enough. Checking her watch, she saw it was already 7:30. The downtown business district was a 30-minute bus ride away. She gathered her resume folder, still planning to job hunt after this mysterious meeting, and headed out, curiosity temporarily pushing aside the weight of yesterday's disaster. The Thornton and Associates building gleamed like a giant mirror in the morning sunlight, its glass exterior reflecting the blue Atlanta sky. Amara stepped off the bus and craned her neck upward, counting 15 floors and feeling increasingly out of place. People in tailored suits and polished shoes streamed past her, walking with purpose, their security badges swinging from lanyards or clipped to pockets. She smoothed her blouse, suddenly aware of the small coffee stain near the hem that she'd thought was barely noticeable. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the revolving doors into a vast marble lobby, with ceilings so high her footsteps echoed. A security guard sat behind a curved desk, watching monitors and checking IDs as people tapped cards against turnstiles. Excuse me, Amara said, approaching the desk. I have a 9 o'clock appointment at Thornton and Associates. My name is Amara Johnson. The guard typed something into his computer, then nodded. Yes, Miss Johnson, you're expected. He handed her a visitor's badge. 15th floor, suite 1520. Elevators are to your right. Thank you. She clipped the badge to her blouse, the plastic feeling heavy and official. The elevator was lined with mirrors and brass railings. Amara studied her reflection as the numbers climbed. 5, 6, 7. Her eyes looked tired, with faint shadows underneath that her concealer hadn't quite covered. She straightened her posture. Whatever this meeting was about, she wouldn't appear defeated. The elevator doors opened on 15 with a soft chime. The hallway was hushed, with thick carpet muffling her steps as she followed signs to suite 1520. Heavy wooden double doors bore the firm's name in understated gold lettering. Thornton and Associates, attorneys at law. Amara pushed the door open to find a reception area that was larger than her entire apartment. Soft classical music played in the background. The walls featured original artwork, not prints, and leather furniture was arranged in conversational groupings. A slender woman with a sleek gray bob sat behind a reception desk, typing rapidly. Good morning, Amara said. I'm Amara Johnson. I have a 9 o'clock appointment. The woman, Patricia, Amara presumed, looked up with a polished smile. Ms. Johnson, thank you for coming on such short notice. Please have a seat. Can I offer you coffee? Water? Water would be nice, thank you. Patricia pressed a button on her desk phone. Jenny, could you bring water to the reception area? Thank you. She turned back to Amara. Mr. Landry will be with you shortly. Amara perched on the edge of a leather armchair, clutching her resume folder like a shield. Why was she here? The law firm's name, Thornton and Associates, niggled at something in her memory, but she couldn't place it. A young woman appeared with water in an actual glass, not plastic, with lemon slices floating on top. Amara thanked her, taking small sips and trying to look like she belonged in this world of quiet luxury. After a few minutes, a door opened, and a tall man with salt and pepper hair emerged. Ms. Johnson? I'm Alan Landry, senior partner here at Thornton & Associates. Thank you for coming in this morning. His handshake was firm but not overpowering. Please come through to my office. Amara followed him down a hallway lined with more artwork and photographs of Atlanta landmarks. His corner office offered a stunning view of the city skyline. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around two walls, making her feel like she was floating above the city. Please have a seat. Mr. Landry gestured to a chair facing his large wooden desk. Unlike Mr. Harvey's cluttered office, this space was minimalist and elegant. Just a few personal photographs, a sleek computer, and a single folder centered precisely on the polished surface. Ms. Johnson, he began, sitting down and opening the folder. I appreciate your promptness, especially given the unexpected nature of this meeting. Mr. Landry, Amara interrupted gently. I'm sorry, but I still don't understand why I'm here. Who is your client? He smiled. Direct and to the point. I appreciate that. He turned one of the photographs on his desk toward her. Do you recognize this man? Amara leaned forward, studying the photo. It showed a much younger version of the elderly man from yesterday, Robert, standing in front of a bridge under construction. His arm was around a smiling woman, both wearing hard hats. That's Robert, she said slowly. The man I served at Bailey's yesterday. But he was much older when I met him. Yes, this photo is from about 30 years ago, Mr. Landry confirmed. Robert Thornton and his late wife Elizabeth at the groundbreaking of the River Point Bridge. Amara's eyes widened. Thornton? As in? She gestured around the office. Yes. Robert Thornton is the founder of Thornton Engineering and several other companies. He's also the principal client of this firm. Mr. Landry leaned back in his chair, studying her reaction. Mr. Thornton has asked me to speak with you about an incident that occurred yesterday. A cold feeling settled in Amara's stomach. Had she done something wrong? Was Mr. Thornton upset about the cornbread or the coffee? I don't understand, she said, setting her water glass down carefully. He forgot his wallet. I just gave him some cornbread and coffee. If he felt that was inappropriate, Mr. Landry held up a hand. Quite the contrary, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Thornton was deeply moved by your kindness. My kindness? The tension in her shoulders eased slightly. Allow me to explain. Robert Thornton is worth approximately $2.7 billion. Amara choked on air. Billion? With a B? Yes. His engineering firm revolutionized bridge design in the 1980s, and his investments in technology and real estate have been extremely successful. Mr. Landry's expression softened. But since his wife's passing 3 years ago, he's become somewhat reclusive. Yesterday was their wedding anniversary. He mentioned that, Amara said quietly. He said sitting at home felt too quiet. Mr. Landry nodded. What he didn't mention, I suspect, is that he often visits businesses incognito, dressed simply without his usual entourage. It started as a way to ensure his companies maintained quality standards without the influence of his presence. But it has evolved into something of a personal test. A test? Amara frowned. Of character, Mr. Landry clarified. Mr. Thornton believes that how people treat those they perceive as having little status or wealth reveals their true nature, understanding, dawned on Amara, and Bailey's failed that test. While you passed with flying colors, Mr. Landry confirmed. Mr. Thornton was deeply impressed by your genuine kindness, not just the free cornbread, but the time you took to listen to him to show him respect when others clearly didn't. Amara shook her head in disbelief. So Mr. Thornton is a billionaire who was pretending to be. She trailed off, unsure how to phrase it. Ordinary, Mr. Landry supplied. He has found that wealth creates a barrier. People either want something from him or treat him differently. Yesterday he experienced authentic kindness, followed by witnessing your unjust dismissal. Amara's cheeks flushed. He saw that? He was still outside when you left through the back door. He had returned to give you a proper tip after retrieving his wallet from his car. Mr. Landry's expression grew serious. He was quite disturbed by what happened and contacted me immediately. I see, Amara said, though she didn't, not really. None of this explained why she was sitting in a fancy law office the morning after losing her job. Mr. Landry seemed to read her confusion. Ms. Johnson, Mr. Thornton would like to meet with you personally, but he had an unavoidable meeting this morning. He asked me to discuss 2 proposals with you in the meantime. He pulled 2 documents from the folder. The first is straightforward. Mr. Thornton would like to offer you compensation for your unjust dismissal. He believes your 3 years of service, exemplary record, and the circumstances of your termination warrant significant consideration. He slid the first document toward her. Amara glanced down and immediately felt lightheaded. The figure listed under proposed settlement had more zeros than she'd ever seen on a document with her name on it. That can't be right, she stammered. $150,000, Mr. Landry confirmed. Tax-free, as it would be structured as a settlement for wrongful termination. Mr. Thornton is prepared to have his legal team pursue action against Bailey's Diner if you wish, but he suspects you might prefer to simply accept the settlement and move forward. Amara stared at the document, unable to process what was happening. That amount of money would pay for Dion's entire education, with enough left over for her to finish culinary school too. It was life-changing, and the second proposal? She asked faintly. Mr. Landry's eyes crinkled at the corners. This is the one Mr. Thornton suspects you might find more interesting. He handed her the second document. He's been planning to open a community-focused restaurant in the Cedar Heights neighborhood for some time. The project has been in development for months, but he's been searching for the right person to lead it. The document outlined a business plan for a restaurant called Community Table. The concept involved affordable, high-quality food, job training for local youth, and cooking classes for neighborhood residents. The final page contained an offer, to Amara, for the position of head chef and manager, with a salary that made her eyes widen again, plus profit sharing and benefits. I don't understand, she said, looking up. I'm not a chef. I don't have formal training or management experience. Mr. Thornton disagrees. He spent several hours last night researching you. Ms. Johnson, he spoke with your previous employers, several regular customers from Bailey's, and even your culinary arts professor from the community college courses you took before you had to withdraw. Amara blinked in surprise. She had taken 3 semesters of culinary classes years ago, before her parents' medical bills had forced her to start working full-time. Everyone he spoke with described you as exceptionally talented, hardworking, and passionate about food, Mr. Landry continued. The kind of person who remembers that table 4's customer is pregnant and needs decaf, even when being escorted out after being fired. Amara felt her cheeks warm. Darlene told him that? Mr. Thornton is very thorough. Mr. Landry smiled. The second part of this proposal includes full tuition for you to complete your culinary degree while the restaurant space is being renovated. By the time Community Table is ready to open in 6 months, you would have the formal qualifications to match your practical experience. Amara looked down at the 2 documents in front of her, her vision blurring slightly. This is, she began, then stopped, unable to find words. Overwhelming, I imagine, Mr. Landry said kindly. Mr. Thornton doesn't expect an immediate answer. He would like to meet with you personally to discuss these options further. He's available this afternoon at 2 o'clock if that works for you. Amara nodded, still speechless. Excellent. Mr. Landry stood. His driver will collect you from your home at 1:30. In the meantime, please review these documents. Feel free to take notes or prepare questions. He handed her a business card. My direct line is on here if you need anything before then. As if in a dream, Amara shook his hand and followed him back to the reception area. Patricia smiled warmly as she passed, as if ordinary people were offered life-changing opportunities in their office every day. Outside on the street, Amara stood still, clutching the folder to her chest as people streamed around her. Just yesterday, she had been worried about making rent. Now, a billionaire wanted to either give her enough money to change her life completely or offer her the job she'd always dreamed of, but never thought possible. She found a bench in a small plaza nearby and sat down, opening the folder again to make sure she hadn't imagined the whole thing. The documents were still there, still real. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dion. Any luck with the job hunt? Amara stared at the message, a smile slowly spreading across her face. How could she possibly explain what had just happened? Finally, she typed back, You won't believe the day I'm having. Call you tonight with big news. She closed the folder and looked up at the clear blue sky, feeling something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope, unlimited and bright as the sun above. Amara spent the next few hours in a daze, wandering through a nearby park and trying to process everything that had happened. She'd called Dion intending to tell him about the meeting, but at the last second decided to wait. What if this was all some elaborate mistake? Or worse, what if it was real but she somehow messed it up? Better to wait until after meeting Robert Thornton himself. At 1:15, she headed back to her apartment building, arriving just as a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The driver, a woman in a neat uniform, stepped out and smiled. "Ms. Johnson, I'm Tanya, Mr. Thornton's driver. Are you ready to go?" "Yes, thank you," Amara replied, feeling underdressed despite wearing the same outfit from the morning. The car's interior was cool and smelled of leather. The windows were tinted, giving the ordinary Atlanta streets a mysterious quality as they drove. "First time meeting Mr. Thornton?" Tanya asked, catching Amara's eye in the rearview mirror. "Well, second time technically, but yes," Amara said. "I served him coffee yesterday, but I didn't know who he was." Tanya chuckled. "Ah, one of his regular person days. He does that sometimes. Drives the security team crazy. You've worked for him long?" 8 years, Tanya replied. "Best job I've ever had. He's demanding but fair. Paid for my daughter's college tuition after she got accepted to Howard. Said it was a bonus for my loyal service." She shrugged. That's the kind of man he is. Amara felt herself relax slightly. That aligned with what she'd experienced. Someone who valued genuine kindness and rewarded it generously. The car turned onto a tree-lined street of elegant old homes in Buckhead, Atlanta's most exclusive neighborhood. They pulled through wrought iron gates and up a curved driveway to a stately house that managed to be grand without being ostentatious. "Here we are," Tanya announced, stopping at the front entrance. "Rita will meet you inside. Good luck, though I don't think you'll need it." The massive front door opened before Amara could even knock. An older woman with silver hair and kind eyes welcomed her. "Ms. Johnson, welcome. I'm Rita, Mr. Thornton's house manager. He's waiting for you in the garden room. This way, please." Amara followed Rita through a home that was both impressive and surprisingly comfortable. Despite the obvious wealth, original artwork on walls, antique furniture that had clearly been selected with care, it felt lived in. Books were stacked on side tables, reading glasses perched on top of them. A sweater was draped over the back of a chair. Rita led her through French doors into a sun-filled room with glass walls that opened to a lush garden. Robert Thornton sat in a comfortable chair, looking much as he had at the diner, though today his clothes were of noticeably better quality, a simple but perfectly tailored button-up shirt and slacks. He rose when she entered, his face breaking into a genuine smile. "Amara, thank you for coming." He extended his hand, then seemed to think better of it and opened his arms instead. "May I?" Amara stepped forward for a brief grandfatherly hug. "Please sit down," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his. "Rita, could we have some tea?" "Already brewing, sir," Rita replied with a smile before disappearing. Robert settled back in his chair, studying Amara with kind eyes. "I imagine you have questions." "A few," Amara admitted with a small laugh. "Before we get to those, I want to apologize for the deception yesterday. I never intended for my visit to result in your dismissal." "It wasn't your fault," Amara said. "Mr. Harvey was looking for a reason. If it hadn't been you, it would have been something else eventually." Robert nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps, but still I feel responsible. Which is partly why we're here today." He leaned forward slightly. "I assume Alan explained my proposals?" "Yes," Amara said, "though I'm still having trouble believing them." "Mr. Landry said you researched me?" "I did," Robert confirmed as Rita returned with a tea tray. He thanked her and continued once they were alone again. "What I discovered confirmed my first impression, that you are exactly the sort of person I've been looking for." "For your restaurant project," Amara said, carefully adding a small spoonful of sugar to her tea. "Community table, yes." Robert's eyes lit up. "It's a concept I've been developing for some time. My Elizabeth was passionate about food as a way of bringing people together. She always said a good meal served with kindness could heal almost anything." "She sounds wonderful," Amara said softly. She was. Robert's gaze drifted to the garden momentarily before returning to Amara. "She would have liked you very much. You have the same genuine warmth, the same belief that people deserve to be treated with dignity regardless of their circumstances." Amara sipped her tea, unsure how to respond to such a profound compliment. "I won't mince words, Amara," Robert continued. "I'm offering you a choice between two good options. The settlement would allow you to finish your education and start fresh with no strings attached. The position at community table would be challenging. You'd be building something from the ground up, but potentially more rewarding in the long run. Why me? Amara asked, the question that had been nagging at her since the morning. There must be hundreds of professionally trained chefs in Atlanta who would jump at this opportunity. Certainly, Robert agreed. And many of them would create excellent food. But community table isn't just about food, it's about creating a space where people feel valued. He set his teacup down. Yesterday you made an old man feel seen when others looked right through him. That quality can't be taught in culinary school. Rita appeared at the doorway. Sir, the car has arrived with the other guest. Robert checked his watch. Right on time. Show him in, please. Amara gave him a questioning look. I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of inviting someone else to join our discussion, Robert explained. I thought his perspective might be valuable. Moments later, Rita returned with Dion, who looked as confused as Amara felt. Sis? Dion stopped short, staring at her. What's going on? I got a call saying you needed me here for an important meeting. Amara stood equally baffled. I didn't. She turned to Robert, who was watching with twinkling eyes. The invitation came from me, Robert said, rising to shake Dion's hand. Robert Thornton, I had the pleasure of meeting your sister yesterday, and we're discussing an opportunity that might affect both your futures. Please sit down. Still looking bewildered, Dion took a seat next to Amara, who quickly filled him in on the events of the past 24 hours. His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to amazement as she explained. So let me get this straight, Dion said slowly when she finished. You got fired for being nice to a customer who turned out to be a billionaire, and now he's offering you either a huge settlement or your dream job. That's a fair summary, Robert chuckled. But why am I here? Dion asked. Robert poured him a cup of tea. Because I understand that you and your sister are quite close and that any decision she makes will impact you as well. I also understand that you're studying sustainable architecture at Georgia Tech, with quite impressive results, I might add. Dion's eyebrows shot up. You know about my project? As I told your sister, I'm thorough in my research. Robert smiled. Professor Wong speaks very highly of your innovative approach to urban housing solutions. Thank you, Dion said, looking slightly dazed. The reason I wanted you here, Robert continued, is that I see potential synergy. If Amara chooses to accept the position at community table, the building will need renovation. I'd like to offer you an internship with our architectural team, working on transforming the space using sustainable principles. It would be paid, of course, and could count toward your degree requirements. Amara and Dion exchanged stunned glances. Furthermore, Robert added, regardless of which option Amara chooses, I'd like to fund the completion of your education, Dion. No loans, no financial stress. Just focus on becoming the architect you're clearly meant to be. Mr. Thornton, Amara began, her voice thick with emotion. This is incredibly generous, but you're wondering why, Robert finished for her. Why would an old man you just met want to invest so much in two young people he barely knows? Amara nodded. Robert stood and walked to the glass wall looking out at the garden. When you reach my age, you start thinking about legacy. What will remain after you're gone? I've built buildings, bridges, companies, but what matters most are the lives you touch. He turned back to face them. I have more money than I could spend in several lifetimes. What I don't have is family. He returned to his seat. Elizabeth and I couldn't have children. We poured our energy into our work instead. After she died, I realized how empty success can be without someone to share it with, without purpose beyond accumulation. Robert leaned forward, his expression earnest. Yesterday, Amara, you showed me kindness without knowing or caring who I was. That's rare. And Dion, your dedication to your education and to sustainable design, that's exactly the kind of forward thinking our world needs. Investing in both of you isn't charity. It's my way of putting resources where they'll do the most good. The room fell silent as the siblings absorbed his words. I don't know what to say, Dion finally admitted. You don't need to say anything now, Robert assured him. Take time to think about it. Talk it over together. He looked at Amara. The same goes for you. Don't feel pressured to decide immediately between the settlement and community table. Amara took a deep breath. Actually, I don't need more time. If the offer still stands, I'd like to accept the position at community table. Robert's face lit up. You're certain? Yes, Amara said, feeling more confident by the second. The money would solve immediate problems, but running community table, creating a space that brings people together, provides opportunities, serves good food with dignity. That's always been my dream. I just never thought it would be possible. Excellent. Robert clapped his hands together. We can begin as early as next week. I'll have Alan draw up the paperwork for your culinary program enrollment. Dion looked at his sister with pride. You're going to be amazing, sis. And you? Robert asked him. Would you be interested in the internship? Absolutely, Dion replied without hesitation. The chance to work on a real project using sustainable principles? That's everything I've been working toward. Wonderful, Robert beamed. Rita, could you bring in the project folders, please? As Rita disappeared to retrieve the documents, Amara found herself blinking back tears. Just 24 hours ago, she'd been sobbing at a bus stop, terrified about making rent. Now she was sitting in a sunlit room being offered the chance to build the life she'd always wanted, but never dared hope for. Mr. Thornton, she said softly, I don't know how to thank you. The elderly man reached across and patted her hand. You already did, my dear. Yesterday, when you treated a shabby old man like he mattered. His eyes twinkled. Though I wouldn't object to some of that cornbread once community table is up and running. Amara laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. That can definitely be arranged. Rita returned with folders for both Amara and Dion, filled with preliminary plans and information. As they began to review the materials, Robert watched them with a satisfied smile, looking more like the unassuming man from the diner than a billionaire businessman. You know, he said thoughtfully, I think Elizabeth would approve. She always said that kindness creates ripples that spread in ways we can never predict. Amara looked up from her folder. I'd say she was right about that. Outside the window, afternoon sunlight dappled the garden, casting patterns that shifted and changed, much like life itself. Unpredictable, sometimes challenging, but capable of surprising beauty when you least expect it. 6 months flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Amara divided her time between culinary classes and meetings about community table. The old brick building in Cedar Heights that would house the restaurant had good bones but needed extensive renovation. She spent countless hours with architects, designers, and contractors, learning the business side of restaurants while honing her cooking skills. Dion thrived in his internship, working closely with the architectural team to transform the space using sustainable materials and energy-efficient systems. His professors at Georgia Tech were so impressed with his real-world application of classroom concepts that they featured his work in the school's showcase for industry professionals. Today was the day they'd all been working toward, the grand opening of Community Table. Amara stood in the gleaming kitchen at 5 a.m., surveying her domain with a mixture of pride and nervousness. Stainless steel appliances reflected the overhead lights. The prep stations were organized with military precision. The walk-in refrigerator was stocked with fresh, locally sourced ingredients. Morning, chef, called a cheerful voice. Amara turned to see Zoe, one of the 5 young people from the neighborhood who had been hired and trained as part of the restaurant's mission. Barely 20, Zoe had dropped out of high school 3 years ago, but had earned her GED during the training program. Morning, Amara replied, smiling as more staff began to arrive. Ready for the big day? Born ready, Zoe grinned, tying her apron with confident movements that wouldn't have been possible 6 months ago. My grandma's coming for the afternoon seating. She still can't believe I work at a place this fancy. Well, she better believe you're one of the reasons it's fancy, Amara said. Those dinner rolls you perfected are going to be a hit. Pride flashed across Zoe's face before she ducked her head and moved to her station. Moments like these were what made all the hard work worthwhile. Seeing confidence bloom in people who had been told too often they weren't good enough. The kitchen quickly filled with staff, a mix of experienced professionals and community members in training. Amara had insisted on this balance from the beginning, arguing that the restaurant needed to maintain high standards while fulfilling its mission of providing opportunities. Robert had backed her completely, never questioning her decisions even when some of his advisors had concerns. By 7 a.m., the kitchen was a hive of focused activity. Bread dough rose in proofers, stock simmered on the stove, and fresh herbs were being chopped. The menu Amara had developed celebrated Southern cuisine with a modern, Health-conscious twist, comfort food that nourished both body and soul. At 9 a.m., Amara stepped out of the kitchen to check on the dining room. The transformation still took her breath away. Dion's design had preserved the historic features of the building while creating a warm, welcoming space. Exposed brick walls contrasted with sleek, sustainable wood tables. Large windows let in natural light, reducing energy costs while creating an airy atmosphere. Local artwork hung on the walls, each piece available for purchase with proceeds going directly to the artists. "What do you think? Will it do?" Dion appeared beside her, looking tired but happy. He'd been at the restaurant until midnight, overseeing the installation of the last light fixtures. "It's perfect," Amara said, giving her brother a side hug. "You've outdone yourself." "We both have," he replied. "Remember when we used to talk about someday plans on those Sunday afternoons at Mom and Dad's? You were going to have a restaurant, and I was going to design buildings. And now look at us," Amara said softly. "I just wish they could see this." "They can," Dion said, his voice thick with emotion. "You know they can." Their parents had died 3 years ago. Their father from a heart attack, their mother from cancer just 6 months later. The medical bills had derailed both their educational plans, forcing Amara to take on extra jobs while Dion worked through school on scholarships and loans. Today would have made them so proud. A knock on the front door interrupted the moment. Robert Thornton stood outside, looking dapper in a tailored suit, his white hair neatly combed. Amara hurried to let him in. "Mr. Thornton, you're early." "Robert, please," he reminded her gently, as he had countless times over the past months. "I couldn't stay away." The anticipation was too much. His eyes swept over the space, taking in every detail. "My goodness, it's even more beautiful than the renderings. All thanks to Dion," Amara said as her brother joined them. "And a great team," Dion added modestly. The contractors really understood the vision. Robert walked slowly through the dining room, pausing to admire various features. The living wall of herbs that would be used in the kitchen, the community table at the center of the room that had inspired the restaurant's name, the cozy reading nook stocked with books for guests to enjoy. "It's exactly what Elizabeth would have wanted," he said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "A place that feeds more than just the body." "I have something to show you," Amara said, leading him to a previously empty wall near the entrance. There hung a beautifully framed photograph of Robert and Elizabeth from decades ago, standing in front of their first major bridge project. Beside it was a simple plaque that read, "Community table is dedicated to Elizabeth Thornton, who believed that breaking bread together builds bridges between people." Robert stood silently before the photograph, his hand reaching up to touch the frame gently. "Thank you," he whispered. "This means more than I can say." The moment was interrupted by the arrival of the front-of-house staff, coming in for their final training session before the doors opened at 11 a.m. Robert composed himself quickly, greeting each person by name. He had made it a point to meet everyone involved in the project, from the executive chef Amara had hired as her second-in-command to the high school students who would bus tables on weekends. The next hour passed in a flurry of last-minute preparations. The local press arrived to take photos and conduct interviews. Robert handled most of the media questions, insisting that Amara and Dion receive proper credit for their work. By 10:45, a small crowd had gathered outside, eager to be among the first customers. "Places, everyone," Amara called, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and excitement. Her staff lined up, looking professional in their uniforms, simple but elegant, designed to convey respect both for the food and the customers. At exactly 11 a.m., Robert, Amara, and Dion stood together at the door. Robert handed Amara a large pair of ceremonial scissors. "You should do the honors," he said. "This is your vision brought to life." Amara shook her head. "Together," she insisted. "All three of us." Their hands overlapped on the scissors as they cut the ribbon stretching across the entrance. Applause erupted from the waiting crowd. Cameras flashed, and then the doors of community table were officially open. The first customers streamed in, exclaiming over the beautiful space. Amara greeted them warmly before rushing back to the kitchen to oversee the first orders. The day passed in a blur of activity, plates going out, compliments coming in, minor crises resolved quickly and quietly. During a brief lull in the afternoon, Amara stepped out to check on the dining room. Every table was full, with a waiting list starting to form. The buzz of conversation and laughter filled the air. Robert sat at a corner table with some business associates, looking pleased as they sampled dishes from across the menu. As she watched, the front door opened and a familiar face entered. Mr. Harvey, her former boss from Bailey's Diner. He stopped short when he saw her, recognition and discomfort crossing his face. Amara approached him with a professional smile. "Welcome to Community Table. Would you like a table for one?" Mr. Harvey shifted awkwardly. I heard about this place opening. Didn't realize you were involved?" "I'm the executive chef and manager," Amara said, maintaining her composure. "We've been written up in several publications this week." "Yes, I saw that." He glanced around, taking in the packed dining room and the obvious success. "It looks impressive. Thank you. Would you like to be seated? The wait is about 20 minutes right now." Before Mr. Harvey could respond, Robert appeared at Amara's side. "Harvey, I thought that was you," Robert said, his tone pleasant but his eyes sharp. "I see you've reacquainted yourself with Amara, the brilliant mind behind this establishment." Mr. Harvey's eyes widened as he recognized Robert. "Mr. Thornton, I didn't realize. That is—" He stammered to a stop. Amara was kind enough not to press charges for wrongful termination. Robert continued conversationally. "A decision I respected, though I didn't necessarily agree with it. Her generosity of spirit is one of the many reasons Community Table is thriving." Mr. Harvey's face flushed. "Yes, well, it seems things worked out for the best." "Indeed they did," Robert agreed. "Now would you care to join us? I'm hosting a table of investors who are interested in funding similar projects in other neighborhoods." The stunned look on Mr. Harvey's face was priceless. But Amara felt no desire for revenge. Life had taken her exactly where she needed to be. "I'll have Zoe bring over our special appetizer sampler," she said professionally. "The cornbread is particularly good." As she returned to the kitchen, Amara felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. 6 months ago, she'd been at her lowest point, feeling defeated and hopeless. Now she stood at the helm of a thriving restaurant that was already changing lives. Not just hers and Dion's, but those of their staff and the wider community. The dinner service was even busier than lunch. By the time they closed at 10 p.m., everyone was exhausted but elated. The reviews had been stellar, both from professional critics and on social media. They had served over 200 meals and taken reservations for weeks in advance. After the last customer left, the staff gathered for a celebratory toast. Robert raised his glass to Amara, to our brilliant chef who proves that kindness and talent are a powerful combination. And to second chances, Amara added, raising her own glass, to the opportunities that come when we least expect them, and to having the courage to seize them. As glasses clinked and tired smiles were exchanged, Amara caught Dion's eye across the room. They had done it, achieved dreams that had once seemed impossible. All because she had chosen kindness on an ordinary day that turned out to be anything but. Outside the restaurant windows, the Community Table sign glowed softly in the night, a beacon of hope in the neighborhood. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new customers, new opportunities to make a difference. Amara couldn't wait.